Come along, PvP, I swear it's fun and not oppressive. I know that some people think low-level invaders are the lowest type of scum, preying on the sweet, innocent PvEers and their honest, heroic level 500 phantom and making it so that their game is just a little bit harder. It's difficult to abide. In something like this scene, this is just atrocious. To be fair, I'm not trying to grief anybody, but the decision to stop and fight on Madness Mountain maybe wasn't the best one. I didn't know that double status procs looks like this. It's honestly disgusting. And look at this innocent darling. This guy was hiding from me for 10 minutes. You think I'm not going to have fun when I finally found him not blending in next to a much taller soldier of Godric? If you watched my video from the other day on the same build, you might have noticed how many fat rollers there were. Listen people, I don't care what level you are, fat rolling is never okay. Friends don't let friends fat roll. If I invade you at level 40 and you try to fat roll away and I chop you in half with Helphen Steeple or smash you with a comically large gavel and roll catch your 8 iframes, don't take it personal. I am the game teaching you not to fat roll. In a way, isn't this the intent of invasions? I love meta level invasions. Having a full build with all of the trappings and taking on the aggressive cheaters at that level is satisfying like nothing else. But there's something sweeter, slower, more organic about lower level invasions. And aside from all that, you of course get the joy of designing a low level build. The activity is fun at lower levels, no doubt, but the build making is even better. This is a level 40 prisoner starting class with 28 int. We don't have to put many stats in other than towards our vigor, and let me tell you, having a lot of vigor makes a big difference at this level. We've got the fashionable banana hat and talisman adding up to 8 free points in our most important stat other than health. Never let someone tell you it's unfashionable. The smartest people wear the dumbest fashion, and Elden Ring says that in the most direct way possible. 28 int unlocks a lot of sorceries, including Carrion Piercer, Gavel of Haima, and Cannon of Haima. If I was a cheeser, I could also use Star Shower at this level of int. I'm doing something a little different on this build, and aside from the magic damage tier, I'm using the int tier, not just for damage, but for a select few spells. I used to not like doing this much because I didn't want to miss out on certain spells further in an invasion, but a better designed invader means I have better tools even when I lose a few IQ points halfway through the fight. When I have the Physick on, I have 38 int, which gives me access to Adula's Moonblade, Shattering Crystal, and Night Comet. I'm even rocking a Soreseal on this build, and while I try to stop wearing one around this level or a bit higher, the 5 points of endurance at this level are massive. Because bleed is so popular, not only in ganks, but also against the regular game, robustness is essential for an invader at low levels. Not only do I get robustness from the endurance levels themselves, but the extra equip load lets me have a little bit of armor to further increase my bleed resistance. Switching to the Stalwart Horn Charm on top of that, and I have a very reasonable chance, even against multiple bleed weapons. Sometimes. All of this is to say that build making at level 40, 25, 15, 7, wherever gives you a lot to chew on. You need to tweak it. You need to play with it to understand the strengths and weaknesses. And when you begin to figure things out and that baby begins to purr like a kitten, you're stopping PvE hosts and their yellow buddies and showing them who's the real banana around these parts. My main weapon on this build is a Zweihander with Waves of Darkness. You might be thinking, hey, your last build also had Zweihander with Waves of Goldness. Exactly, my friend. That's because Waves of Darkness is a much better version of Golden Land that at this level can outtrade basically everything. I'll even go so far as to say Waves of Darkness is my favorite Ash of War in Elden Ring. Area of effect, area denial that lasts several seconds, a powerful hitbox, and a follow-up that can pancake and often kill. There's also some esoteric properties to Waves that have been a bit undersold. The ground-based hitboxes add frostbite buildup on cold weapons, for example. It also has a gravity effect, where if you activate it near a cliff, it hits at the bottom instead of where you're standing. Pound for pound though, this Ash of War turns invasions around, at any level. I'm not afraid to spam this, I'll use it twice if you run in. Don't run in. You've been warned. As I mentioned in my other video, 19 strength makes Zweihander very accessible. Putting Waves of Darkness as a swap on an inter strength build is a no-brainer. And combined with the beefy hyper armor and crouch poking potential, Waves Zweihander is an easy include. I have other weapons on the build like Star Fists, which I've been using for chase downs and are actually unfair. They are of course cold infused on this build. At lower levels, depending on your stat spread, cold will give you nearly as much AR on your weapon as magic will. This changes quite a bit at higher levels, where cold weapons will be more oriented towards the proc, whereas your magic weapons will be more damaging, but there is very little cost to having your weapons cold infused at this level, and Frostbite makes a big difference for burst damage and killing phantoms with higher resistances. Speaking of cold, I've got a cold one for ya. Helphen's Steeple. The greatsword moveset is at an all-time high, and on a lower level cold build, this thing can get massive damage. I try to mix up with crouch R1s, and the R2 hyper armor is deceptive, leading to winning trades. I would like to say this weapon is just as good as the Zwei against a group, but it is easier to get stunned out of its hyper armor when two-handing it, and one-handed it has no hyper armor. You'll see that I use Gavel Haima a lot in these clips. That's because, similar to Waves of Darkness, it has very generous hyper armor, and is excellent against groups who are aggressing. Having something like Gavel is an excellent trading tool if you're using the greatsword one-handed or a weapon with no hyper armor. While lacking the one-handed hyper armor and all-around tankiness of Zwei, the upside to Helphen's Steeple is that it has a much faster time to kill, leading to situations like this. Meteoric Ore Blade also has the feature of doing a lot of damage on a lower level in strength build. Gravitas is a very useful Ash of War, and it can be used in all types of strange situations to drag people off ledges or just to disrupt a group that is circling you. Katanas are just stupidly strong on this patch, and at lower levels, it's easy to stun lock if people don't understand their poison priority. Of course, I have a Shamshir for tasty roll catching, and a new weapon I've been jamming with is this cold Banished Knight Halberd with Storm Assault. Storm Assault true combos on patch 1.10, and if you don't spoil this Ash of War, it can be a guaranteed kill if you know how much damage you need, and as always, great roll catching and chase down potential with no swaps. Scythe with Loretta Slash. This is because I like Scythe and the R2 can combo into Loretta Slash, but really, I just enjoy the hyper armor, range, and damage on this Ash, and cold Scythes are one of my favorite tools in the game. I have a variety of spells on the build. My first spell that I can hold up on the D-pad to get to is Night Shard for quick finishes. After that, I have Night Maiden's Mist to set up favorable situations, and then my favorite melee spells in the order I like to use them. A lot of the time, I open with Piercer since it's good from neutral or against aggression, and can quickly switch to Gavel to punish aggression. I also have the ultra corny Shard Spiral into a Comet spell. I don't use this very much, and I find Night Comet to be pretty unreliable as an invader, since usually people are very focused on me, and it doesn't deal that much damage on the build. But I do like to have a few powerful ranged options so I can pressure from distance when needed. Otherwise, what is exactly the point of being a mage? I've also been using fun new tools, Shattering Crystal and Rock Blaster to varying results. Carrion Piercer, Gavel of Haima, and Cannon of Haima are stock on all of my int builds. These are, in my mind, other than something horrendous like Star Shower, the most reliable magic tools for an invader, and they all do different things very well. Piercer pressures and roll catches from distance, Gavel of Haima can trade and reset, and Cannon is just a cannon. Those who don't have Vigor can still be one-shot with this build. All of this together makes a phenomenal invading kit. I'm working hard to put together builds that are more than just single ideas. I want my builds to be comprehensive and have tools for every possible situation. Int with cold infusion and some spells is one of my favorite ways to build a character in Elden Ring. I've done it at many levels, and while I do love my meta dueling build, I think that this level 40 invader is one of the favorite characters I've played. I built the character to be a silly buffoon, but he mostly ended up being a total badass. This character also harkens back in some ways to the very first invader I ever made, long before the days of Wexdust, a Liurnia and Raya Lucaria invader that was a level 42 mage. And I still get Raya Lucaria invasions on this build. I always enjoyed the lore that you as an invader were a part of the level, in this case a wizard defending a wizard school. But really, I'm just a goofball. Goofing off in Elden Ring is fun, and invading is the best way to do it. Adding spells into the mix gives you a different dimension of gameplay, and while I love having a melee-focused invader with amazing options, keeping the meteorite staff in my left hand gives me an entirely new book of plays to weave into my gameplay and add to the combo potential of my build. That, on top of Waves of Darkness, and I've got everything I need, at a level where most of the invasions are a lot of fun. If low-level hosts were innocent, they would be playing the game offline. I think a lot of people wonder what drives Souls players to invest as much time and thought into these games as they do. The answer for me is the builds. This game has so much to offer in the way of different combinations of options for a character, and that, on top of the challenge of invading, has me back in the lab making more builds to share with you, my viewers. If you're like me with other creators, you'll take the ideas you like and that work and leave the others behind. But there are 2 rules that you should follow no matter what. Never fat roll, and subscribe to Belmonk. Yeah, this was a pretty funny one. I killed this guy as soon as he spawned in. I like to spam the Ash of War. And they're a pretty thirsty group. Probably an honest group. But they don't seem that confident. The running backward with your shield up from 100 feet away is a good sign. You want to go Stormcaller versus Waves? No! I win that every time. Roll catch. Don't run through the night, maidens. GG. I hope you enjoyed. I'll have another build video next week.